Hello, it is Diane with Diane's Blue Hearts and Butterflies.com, and I am wanting to use the Cheerful Daisies bundle this month to do my class, and I wanted to show a lot of different types of techniques with it. This one is more of a simple SIP card, I think is what they call it. Stamps, ink, and paper, basically. I did add a little bit of stepping it up a little bit to add some extra things to it. This one I did, on my example, I did use a Mango Melody, which is a retired color, but in the class I used Daffodil Delight. And I'd like to share this with you, and let's get started. First, I wanted to introduce the Cheerful Daisies bundle. It has a large daisy, a smaller daisy, and then kind of a, looks more like a cone flower with the full petals falling back from the center. And it has some other little flowers, some sayings, sentiments, and the stem, the centers, and things like that. It also the bundle comes with a set of dies. The dies cut the outlines of the flowers, and then it also cuts a detail of the flower on both of those, or all three of the flowers. This little one cuts out this little set of flowers. These three are attached with some leaves that makes a detailed, which we're going to do as part of this series. There's also the leaf, and then these two little ones can cut out the centers. It does come with a label die, which I did use for this project to cut out the label that we're going to use. And then it also cuts out the stem. And then there's an extra piece that just kind of is an accent that you could use. So let me get that set aside, and then we'll go over the dimensions. Now, on my blog at www.dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com, I will have these measurements over there as well, and the products that I used, but you're more than welcome to use this with any products that you may have. So I started, I had a piece of ribbon that's about 12 inches to do the we're going to do what's called a faux look with the ribbon, so that it glues on the back side, and then you have a little bow that you can tie. But here is that label cut out. I did use some retired cardstock because I had it, and that's the Pear Pizzazz, and that's what I cut the label out of. The base is just a thick basic white, and it is the standard 5.5 by 8.5, and scored at 4 1/4. And then you just fold that over, and of course I left my bone folder over there. Hold on. My bone folder for that, and the envelope. Move those off to the side. There is a Pear Pizzazz cardstock that this is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, because I wanted to have a little bit larger border around the piece so that it would have a little bit more of the white showing. And then this other white piece that we're going to stamp on is the basic white. It's 4 3/4 by 3 1/2, and that's one we're going to stamp on here. And then I do have some, these are the brushed metallic adhesive back dots that I'm going to use as well. So let me move these things, and I'll just kind of give you an idea of what the stamping is going to be for this, because we're just stamping directly on here. Before I do that though, I am going to get Stampin' Pierce mat, because these are photopolymer stamps and they don't have the red rubber cushion, or the cushion behind the red rubber. These are just the photopolymers, so they need a little bit more cushion to give a better impression. And sometimes I even use it for the red rubber stamps just to get a better impression. Now I brought both of these out here. The one we're going to use is the one that is a solid, more filled in petals. They also have the outline petals. These can be used as two-step stamping, which we're going to do on another card, and they can also be just used separately to do things. So I'm just brought that out here so I could show you the difference. I hope that you were able to see. One is more filled in and the other one is more of an outline. So on this, we're going to get out the inks that I'm going to use, which is the Daffodil Delight, the Pear Pizzazz, and then Pebbled Path. And I started out by doing 3 of the large flowers and then filling in with some of the smaller flowers. And so I just inked it up, and then I found a place I wanted to stamp it, and then you just hold it there for a few seconds to allow it, the ink, to soak in, because it is dye-based ink. And then I'm going to put another one, and then I'll do another one over here. And I like to have grid paper back behind so that I can go off. So let me set that one aside. Then I'll bring in the little one. Make sure to get it inked the way you want it. I may just do 2 on that one. Sometimes it gives a better symmetry when you use odd numbers for the your patterns that you put on the front of your card. 3s, 5s, 7s. The centers, you just ink up and put them in. The larger center is the one that I have the hardest time getting kind of lined up. So that one I'm just going to kind of double it up. Turn this one. And sometimes you stamp off wrong, so there's always a way to kind of fix that. And it saves when you go to clean your stamps if you'll go ahead and get some of the excess ink off of the stamp. Then it doesn't get so much ink on your little stamp cleaner, either the Stampin' Chamois or the other stamp cleaner, and then you have a lot less ink to have to clean up. There is also the center for the small one that you can put on here. Since I'm trying to keep my head out of the camera, I'm not being able to see very well where I'm stamping. It's a guesstimate. Well, there's that. And then this is the new Pebbled Path. And then I have the Pear Pizzazz that I'm going to use. There are other greens. There's the Granny Apple Green, the Old Olive, the Lemon Lime Twist. And so then you just, I'm sorry if my head gets in the way. I'm trying to look and find out where to put these leaves. You can just put them kind of randomly where you want them to be. over here. Three, four, five, six, seven. So I have 7 leaves. That's an odd number. It's kind of how I decide. And then you can just set that one aside to dry. I did want to go over a little bit of the heat embossing. It's a great little fun additive to kind of make a sentiment pop or an image pop, is using the heat embossing. And it's always better if you could have the embossing buddy. In the catalog it comes as part of the embossing toolkit, and it just helps to dry up areas where maybe your fingers touched and your oils were on there, because you're going to be working with a fine powder that you heat up, and then it makes the heats up and melts so that it can make the little raised image. But you don't want it to grab onto places where other oils and things may be. It's also, you can use this with the Versamark pad. It's more of a sticky type ink that stays wet longer so that it holds the powder better. But you can use embossing powders with any other stamp ink. You just have to do it quickly so that the ink doesn't dry, so that it can grab as much of the powder as possible. I saw some people using a coffee filter underneath to catch the powder, so that that helps put it up in there. If you have the tool kit, you can use the little tray, and then the tray has a little funnel that you can put that back in. Now, I did use one of the sentiments from this stamp set, and it says, "Wishing you the brightest birthday." And you just basically get that sentiment wet with the Versamark ink, and then you stamp it on, and then you'll pull that off, and then you put on the embossing powder. It doesn't take a whole lot, and grab it here, and you kind of tap that off, and sometimes you tap a little bit on the back to get some of the excess off. You just want to watch to make sure that there's not any stray pieces. Also, make sure that you do not stick your finger in that, because it can wipe that powder off of the Versamark area, which then is already used, so it won't stick again. And if you want to know how I know, it's because I have done it. That's how we kind of all learn sometimes. So then, let me grab my heat embossing stuff. There was a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator that I used to watch. I haven't seen her in a long time, but she had shown how to take a piece of cardboard and wrap it with aluminum foil, and then she just used clothespins to hold these little items in place, so that you could, and you definitely do not want your Stampin' Pierce mat in the way where you're going to be using a heat tool, because it will melt it. And then it's always good to get the heat tool warmed up, because it'll melt the powder faster. And then you just kind of run it over it, and you'll know that it's heat, or the heat's done with when it turns a really glossy, and everything looks melted, and there's no more powdery look to it. When it's glossy, you know that it's done. So let me set that back off to the side, and then pull that out, and then we have pretty much everything ready to go. So And if you'd like to, you could also take and stamp one of these flowers inside here and on your envelope, which gives it kind of an extra thing. So let me do that really quickly. I forgot about doing that before. And so get the daffodil. Put my little pad underneath there again. And you don't, with the foam pads, you don't need to push very hard. You're basically just tapping the surface to get the raised areas. That's how we don't get it in between, and we don't get it all over the block so that it doesn't get messed up. Then I'm going to do the center, that pebbled path, and move that a minute, get that done. Sorry about that. And then the leaf, do that in the green. Let me just stamp that one off, and another one over here by it. And you could add a sentiment, or you could leave it where you could write in it when you know who you're going to give it to. And then there's the envelope. And it does, you could just use the little one. I'm going to try that. And you could use the stem if you wanted to raise that up. The center. And I don't even think I need a leaf on that one. So let's put these ink pads away. Make sure that if you have accidentally touched the ink pads that you wipe off your hands, because you don't want to get that ink for sure on your cardstocks. So I am going to use Stampin' Seal Plus. You can use whatever adhesive you like. The white Tombow glue I am not very good with. As I've told some people, it's not proper English, but I'm not a good gluer when it comes to the white glue, because I tend to get too much and then it gets sticky everywhere. So I'm just adhering the one that we stamped onto its layer. And this is where we're doing the faux ribbon technique here. Just add a little bit of glue to the top and the bottom just to hold the end of the ribbon. Let me move that over a little bit. And then wrap it over here, do that, cut off that excess, because we're going to use that for the ribbon, the bow on the front. So then we just add adhesive to the rest of this. And we'll stick that on the front. Remember, this is a little bit larger border than normal. And then I'm just going to tie a little bow. Pull it down a little bit more. I am having some issues. Well, and if you want, you can actually just measure enough to go on that. Try it backwards here. And then you could tie the bow off the ribbon spool so that you have more to work with, or cut it 15 inches or whatever. I'm going to grab this spool, and of course this is Pear Pizzazz ribbon that I haven't used up yet. So let me try that again here with more on my fingers here. Pull that back. This, and you just keep fussing with it till it gets the way you want it. And then you just snip your ends. And then I used glue dots to adhere that to the ribbon. And there it is. Just going to get a couple of them to make sure it holds. And then use some dimensionals to put on the back. Okay. And then I adhered that just right down here. And then the metallic dots that I used, I'm just going to grab some of the antique brass looking ones and put them around here. And you have your card with an envelope. It's really pretty that you can share with somebody to brighten their birthday. I hope that you enjoyed learning this technique and using this stamp set. And don't forget to check out the blog where the measurements are, and also other projects, so that you can link to the videos for those as well. And I hope that if you do enjoy this, that you'll subscribe to my channel. I do try to upload videos and update my blog once a month that coincides with my monthly stamp class. Some months I do have to take off for other reasons, but most of the time it's once a month. And if you are interested in being notified when I do upload a new video, if you'll click the bell icon on YouTube, then it will notify you when I upload something. And then I'd love it if you'd share it with your friends to let them be able to share and enjoy and doing these types of cards. I appreciate it, and thank you for your time.